if we look at the beginning of this country, every Thanksgiving we celebrate the arrival, in this part of the world of the Pilgrims. Well, who were the Pilgrims? The Pilgrims were made up basically of two groups, the Puritans and the Separatists. The Puritans and Separatists had the same beliefs in the Bible and Christ, but the Puritans stayed as part of the Church of England while they were in England, because they felt they can cleanse the Church of England, purify it. The Separatists believed that the Church of England was beyond repair and that they needed to establish their own society for their religious freedom. So when they came to Plymouth and Jamestown and all the settlements here and settled, they established their religious freedom, but there was a very important element besides just practicing religious freedom to these two groups, and that was a missionary element. The same element that has existed, since the beginning of Christianity, that we saw in the Crusades or in the Inquisition. It was this sense that it wasn't enough to take on Jesus Christ as your personal Savior and to follow the Bible, dogmatically, dot every I, cross every T. There was a sense that you needed to spread this belief to others to save them. This is the same element that we're seeing in this OCF group in the military today. So this type of thinking has existed for a long, long time. And when fundamentalism in Christianity first began, it was, at least when it was termed or coined, it was an offshoot, from Protestantism. It was a group that wasn't satisfied with how the Bible doctrine was being practiced by a large part of the Christian population. So this is dangerous, folks, whether you see it in Islam, in Christian society, in Jewish society, because, as I've said before, besides the fact that it impedes our reasonable ability to establish a powerful mind to think for ourselves, it also is a threat to our national security. Because when you have the President of the United States using terms that are fundamentalist terms about higher authorities and using terms like crusades and things like that, you can see that it's not all propaganda from the Middle East and Arab countries. They're actually responding to what George Bush and other leaders in this country are saying. I thought it was phenomenal when I saw a video on YouTube during one of the votes, one of the primary votes, and two people who were voting for Mike Huckabee. They were part of a church, and the guy asked them what they thought of Barack Obama. And they were like, oh, no, he's a Muslim, and we heard that he, uses the Quran when he was sworn in, and he doesn't put his hand over his heart during the Pledge of Allegiance. And the guy was subtle, the interviewer, and he said to them, well, where did you hear that? And he said, oh, our pastor told us. Our pastor told us. This is the danger, folks. Obviously, Barack Obama is a Christian, folks. He grew up in Hawaii. His father was a Muslim, but his mother was not. And he didn't grow up in any Muslim religion. He's part of a church. So he's a Christian. This is what I'm talking about. Think for yourself. Fundamentalism type thinking does not allow one the ability to inquire or reason. And if there is a God up there, and whatever we call him, he gave us this power to reason and inquire. And I find it surprising that people are so quick to give up this great human ability that we have. It also doesn't allow us to have tolerance, which is really at odds with fundamentalism, because tolerance really does breed peace a lot more. because, if not always, because what tolerance does is it allows flexibility, and it allows one to use understanding, and most importantly, to put oneself in the shoes of another before judging them. That is at the core of what is wrong with our foreign policy today. You know, when we talk about spreading democracy, freedom, capitalism, we are so not putting ourselves in the place of the cultures that that we are trying to influence, if not just out and out take over. You gotta think for yourself today, because if you don't, you're going to end up hearing things like, even though there were no WMDs, even though Iraq wasn't really infested with Al Qaeda, it was still good because we got rid of Saddam Hussein, who was a bad man. If one was to use their reasonable ability, they would realize, okay, I cannot negate the fact that Saddam Hussein maybe was a bad man and did horrible things, but the argument is not that. The argument is, should we be using our military to establish our own morality? Or are we supposed to use it just for national defense? Because if you accepted the argument that, yes, it was good to go into war and get rid of Saddam Hussein no matter how many lives it cost, then you would say, well, why haven't we then gone to war with Saudi Arabia? That's a good question to ask yourself. There's a story the other day how they have sentenced to death the religious police over there. The religious courts have sentenced to death a woman for witchcraft. She's illiterate. She wasn't allowed to go to any of the hearings, and the only evidence against her were some testimony from people who said that she put a spell on them. One guy said he was made impotent because of her. They've sentenced her to death. Now, this is someone who owns major interest in this country. Businesses, real estate. So you say to yourself, it doesn't add up then. It doesn't add up. So remember, folks, fundamentalism is a dangerous quality to adopt blindly. It's okay to adopt fundamentalist ideas personally, but if you become part of a group that doesn't require you to reason and use the power of your own mind to inquire and to ask reasonable questions, what ends up happening is you adopt very dangerous ideas that could lead to wars as we see them today. So keep thinking for yourselves, folks, and I'll be back with more later.